there.
Yeah, we got to give it 100%.
Yeah.
Got to get back on track. We know what we can do to win. I read where you said once you took your sports column and really made it into other things. Your connection to sports would be you would write something like, on my way to the Braves game, I noticed something.
Well, I knew I was in trouble, and my second column ever for the sports department was about cancer. My first one was about Chicago, and I just continued to get further and further away, and so finally they said, look, you have no business on the sports page. We're going to put you over here. And of course, I got over there, started writing about sports a lot. But it's just, I love sports, I enjoy it, but it's still, the names change. Every year, these horses run a Kentucky Derby, right? The only thing changes, horses got different names. Always, same thing. People's names just change, but always the same thing. But it's fun to keep up with it as a fan, and not you've got to go deal with those people.
Yeah, now you don't have to worry about it. You can just sit back and enjoy it. This book you got out, I haven't understood anything since 1962. Now, it seems to me that in your previous books, humor has always been sort of the centerpiece, and everything else was peripherally around the humor. This one, I see some puzzlement, some bewilderment, some anger, and there's a lot of humor there.
Yeah.
But it seems to be a little different approach from what
I think what it is my age. I'll be 46 in a couple of weeks. I would have been 47, but I was sick a year. And
took a year off.
Yeah, and I think I reached that point in life that everybody gets to as they get older. You finally get to the age you look around and you don't understand anything. The world is crazy. It's not what you grew up with. It's not what you value. You see things you cannot believe. What used to be right is now wrong. It's flip-flopping. Girls want to be in the Boy Scouts. I was in the Boy Scouts, and if I had a daughter, the last thing I would let her do is go camping with a bunch of Boy Scouts. I promise you that, because I've been with some rough crowd. But, and it comes, and the political thing has got me crazy. The music is strange. The food is strange. The values are strange. They're now having sex on network television. There was a woman got naked on network television, Muriel Hemingway.
Did she get naked or naked?
She got naked. And that's hard for me to, deal with. And it just, I really realize, and the political correct thing, I believe there's something in this country known as the speech police. And basically it's the New York Times and the Washington Post and the networks and newspapers, and what they do is they tap everybody's phone in America. And if you say anything that's not politically correct, then they come out and get you, And now we can't even say pregnant anymore. That's parasitically engaged at this point. But what's happened is this stifling expression. You're afraid to speak anymore because the National Association of Left-Handed Lesbian Cross-Dressers Who Marry Goats, get bad at you about something. And it's just scary. I mean, the last group, and this is in the book too, the last group left on this earth, on this country, the group that's the most politically incorrect, unfortunately, I fall under. I am a white, heterosexual, Southern male. It's the worst thing you can be. You're automatically racist, sexist, homophobic, the whole thing. And it's a little scary. And for instance, I didn't have a girlfriend, and I wanted to get one, so I was going to put my name in the classified and look down. They have all those, personals. They got B, F. That's
you have to,
all those little things.
You have to decode them.
And I didn't know what to tell. So I finally put white, Southern, straight male, WSSM, and the lady didn't want to put it in the paper. Said it's not going to do you any good because nobody is going to go out with a white Southern heterosexual male. And sure enough, the only thing I did get was I got a letter from Jimmy Swaggart wanting money. Just sent it to me. But it's really what's happening in the world. I mean, our television to me has gone crazy. We had the Clarence Thomas trial. Now they begin talking about things on there that honestly I had rather not see on my television.
You don't want to be sitting with your family and hear some of the things
they got into the thing about the pubic hair on the Coke can. Now, I studied about the pubic wars in ancient history in high school.
Did you?
Can't remember who won those, the lesbians or the Carthaginians, I don't know. But then they got talking. I was sitting in my den one night eating bologna sandwich and watching the Drano commercial, the one that actually shows you the big hairball that's clogging up everything.
Oh, yeah.
You look at that and eating a bologna sandwich, and I felt the same way about the pubic, but I do know who put the pubic hair on the Coke can.
You do?
Jimmy Swaggart did that, too. He's also probably the one that made Murphy Brown pregnant, but we won't go into that.
So Swaggart is causing a lot of problems.
He's got anything to do anymore, in
this country.
He was making $40 million a month, decided to take a little walk on the wild side. I can understand that. Preacher's got the same kind of enzymes and juices like the rest does. But if I was going to risk $40 million a month, I promise you I'd wind up something better looking at that sweat hog they found in that motel room. That girl was ugly in a bowling shoe. 40 million, get you a fine-looking woman.
Boy, you'd think so. Yeah. You'd really think so. Louis Grizzard is our guest. We'll be back. Stay with us after this.
Wrapped in the arms of love is where I'll be.
He's had 22 #1 hits.
For all the world to
14.
Take me back to 1962. What snapped you then?
Everything made sense in '62.
Up until that point,
no, at the end of '62 is when I started being confused. But in '62, I was 16 years old. I had my driver's license, had a lovely blonde girlfriend. I had my leather jacket. I just lettered in basketball and baseball in high school. Arnold Palmer was winning golf tournaments. Sandy Koufax was winning baseball games. My mother used to hand-cut French fries for me when I wanted them, and just everything. And then what happened is they shot the president. That was the first thing. And then the Beatles came along. I knew the first time I saw the Beatles were probably going to ruin America.
Ruin America.
Yeah, he got these, I like rock and roll in the 50s and 60s. You know, it just has nothing to do with what it is today, but then it was good. And he came to these four pale-looking, long-haired English guys, foreigners. They say I'm a xenophobic. I'm afraid of guys named Zeno. But they began, and then people's got, the hair started getting longer, and the music changed, and then other pale-looking Englishmen came to the United States wearing tight little breeches, and then men started wearing earrings, and the Vietnam War broke out, and nothing has been the same since. So I blame the Beatles.
So the Beatles pretty much are
they caused the Vietnam War, and I explain how to do it in the book. It'd take too long to tell you here, but they actually did. But I never liked the Beatles, and I tell you what I did. I grew up in a small town. We had Steve Smith's Truck Stop, and Steve had a great jukebox with all the old, great old country songs on it. Had Furlong Husky and Farron Young and all those great pioneers. And at night, he pumped it outside. You could sit out at night and listen to it. And I really just went, once the Beatles came and rock and roll music started to get crazy, I became a total dyed-in-the-wool country fan. And what's interesting now is so many of the country songs today are remakes of songs that were allegedly rock and roll songs when I was growing up. But I have a little trouble with the music today. You know, we have the names of the groups bother me. You know, it's Stark Naked and the Car Thieves. And I saw Michael Jackson's video, and he got up on a car during this video, an old car, and for the next 6 minutes did exactly the same thing they locked up poor old Pee Wee Herman for down in Sarasota. And listen to Pee Wee, at least went into a dark theater, right? But I did find out every time Michael does that, Pee Wee gets a royalty check. So that,
does he?
Yeah, that's a good thing. Then I wondered, I mean, rap kind of strange to me too, and that lady, Sister Soul Train, that is singing about killing white people. I want to know if she's just going to kill us at random, or if there's a list, because if there's a list, I want to know if I'm on it. And pretty soon we'll move to New Zealand, because when the shooting starts, remember this, white man can't jump. I mean, we'll be in big trouble.
Let me read a quote concerning rap music. You wrote, if you're a parent, go upstairs right now and search your child's room for violent, sexually demented, sick and filthy rap music. Take it downstairs and burn it. And then go back upstairs with a large stick and beat your kid until he or she promises never to spend your hard-earned money on such filth and bring it under your roof again.
I think that'd work. I really do. I think if you just go take a stick and just beat them to just hard as you could and tell them that, I think it would, you know, I just don't.
You have kids?
No. But if I have a dog, but who doesn't listen to rap music, I promise you that. But I just feel like that, I mean, we're to a point that millions of teenagers are buying music about killing policemen is a little strange. I mean, if you allow that, what's going to happen next? You know, they said the other day that they got a way we can live to be 400 years old. Can you imagine what music's going to be like in 400 years?
No, I can't.
It's going to be strange.
But you know, didn't we hear this when we were kids from our parents, that how can you be listening to Elvis Presley? How can you be watching this guy shake his hips? They wouldn't even shoot a long shot of him on the Ed Sullivan Show.
That's true.
That it was dementing our society and changing us.
Well, what we should have done right then is my mother should have taken a stick and got Elvis out of there. Because, see, what happened was, by a lot, if he came back today, nobody noticed it, right? I mean, you know, plus you'd be an old person. I know what Elvis would be doing if he was alive today, though.
What's that?
Scratching and clawing, trying to get out of that casket, I promise you that. But anyway, see, what happened is we let Elvis in, okay? All right, that's so. And then the next thing, the Beatles, and it's gone on and on and on. And now it's gotten, I mean, Elvis might have shaken his pelvis, but he never showed it to anybody. And it's just gone uncorrected and unstopped, and now it's gone into an area of insanity.
Yeah.
Singing about killing policemen, music that children buy is not, you know, there are still limits to everything. Freedom of speech, there are limits. There's always limits to things, you see. And what bothers me is that if it's like that now, what's next? And Madonna, you know, Madonna performs in her underdrawers. And, you know, Patsy Cline never did anything like that. It's like when they shot John Lennon. I thought they'd kill the president. This thing went on for 5 days. John Lennon once posed naked on the cover of an album, and they had this 5-6 days of great trip. Marty Robbins died, hardly made a scratch in the paper. Nobody mentioned it. He never posed naked on the album. He really didn't.
Yeah, you know, I think I'm a little more lenient with this because I think that the kids today they rebel in whatever way it takes to get our attention. I mean, you know, there was a song years ago called "I Shot the Sheriff," which is also about shooting a police officer. But I think they want the reaction that they get from us, and that's that we're shocked, we're incensed, we don't understand it.
Well, one of the good things though about getting to my age in life and being able to is that it's one of the good things about growing old that you can look back and say the younger generation is going to hell. As you mentioned, they've been doing it for years and years and years. But I still think that it's gone to the point now that if something isn't done, I mean, to me there is a moral crisis in this country. There really is. With the music, with sexual practices, with movies, with televisions. You know, you can't just finally just throw all the rules out. I mean, you know, societies have tried that, and they always fall. You got to have something, some basic tenets, like one of the ones I know is not very popular today, but believe it or not, when I was growing up, that you had to be married. You normally got married before you have children. I was reading in the paper the other day that one of the rock and roll singers had decided to marry his wife. The mother of his had children, 3 children, 10 years old, and they decided to get married 10 years later. I used to think it was the other way around, you know. After about 10 years, started thinking about divorce, you know, after 10 years. But you get married first and then have the children. But that's backwards today. I don't know.
The people that listen to what you say and what you write might think that you're hard on or you're against women's rights, gay rights, minority rights, and such as this. But you say that's not the case.
No, I don't know about rights. I mean, let's take homosexual rights. I think that if you want to make love to a goat or a telephone pole, I don't care. Just go in. That's what motels are for. I mean, that's why we have the Days Inns, okay? I don't like the open trying to shock somebody who doesn't agree with that particular lifestyle. As I said, I don't, Bobby, but when the thing becomes, I'll give an example. There is a group called Queer Nation, and their thing is that they do public displays of affection to shock heterosexuals. There is a chapter, and this breaks my heart to say this. There is a chapter in Athens, Georgia, at the University of Georgia, my alma mater. These people got out in the middle of the football, people walking football, and began kissing one another, speaking in tongues, if you know what I mean, just to shock, you know, the other people. I don't particularly, I wouldn't, you know, try to have, do something like that in public. I mean, it's just for the shock value. Now, I don't care.
Well, most heterosexuals wouldn't do that.
That's what I'm saying.
To that extent.
So, you know, that's the point. And it's, you know, as far as women's rights are concerned, I've said this a million times. If a woman can do the same job as a man, she should be allowed the opportunity and should be paid the same amount of money. I just don't think they'll allow women on our golf courses. Other than that, I'm fine. I think they'll have their own golf courses.
Women golf courses.
Well, they got women restrooms. They got male restrooms, you know. That way they can have those little 190-yard par fours, and they can hit that sucker 15 or 20 times before they pick it up if they want to. But they don't back up the entire golf course 9 miles.
Yeah. Let's take a break. We'll be back. We'll try to get a really accurate read on Louis Grizzard here when we come back. Stay with us.
think kids today need to learn responsibility. Mine have dish night, and they do a great job. So there's no food like little tomato seeds left stuck on the plates. They always pre-rinse, and they never overload.
No matter who does the dishes, Cascade.
About how much I enjoyed that.
Did you?
What didn't you like about that?
Well, I don't remember the second half because I was asleep during that time. But it just seemed, I don't like to go to movies and leave depressed. And it just seemed to me that it was, I mean, I know that it's terrible living in Los Angeles. And I know that how the the jungle can just everything. But you know, so I don't mind that they made the movie. I'm just saying that I didn't enjoy it. You know, I like movies. My favorite movie of all time is Patton. I love Patton. My second one is where Buford Pusser took that stick in that place and tore that whole, it was a Walking Tall, the first Walking Tall. Yeah. That's kind of, it makes me feel good, but I hated Grand Canyon. I saw one worse, though. I saw one the night on television called Barton Fink. Mm-hmm. You seen Barton Fink?
I did see Barton Fink.
Did you understand it?
I didn't understand.
I had no
I'll be honest
idea
with you.
What was going on. And there's Roseanne's husband showed up in the thing. And who set fire to the whole... You notice how the hotel was on fire in the last 20 minutes of the movie?
Yeah, yeah.
But it never spread?
And they're running through the halls.
Yeah,
sure.
They never spread.
Yeah.
That's awful. And I saw one yesterday in my hotel room here in Nashville called Proof.
Don't know that one.
It was worse than Barton Fink. It made less sense than Barton Fink. But it's the movies have gotten strange. They really have. And you know, you've got to have the... if you go get some popcorn during the day's movies, you will miss enough skin to upholster an entire Greyhound bus. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Now, you should have stayed till the end of Grand Canyon. Because, see, you missed the message.
Did I?
Yeah.
What was the message?
Well, I'm trying to... I'm trying to remember.
Let me tell you
the fragility of life, the need to live in the present. The things we take for granted, friendship and life.
First thing I'd done, I'd have got me a Greyhound bus if I'd have been, what's his name, Kevin Kline. I'd have got on the first Greyhound bus and moved somewhere in Alabama. I'd have gotten out all that mess. That's the first thing I'd done. Because they burned it down later anyway, and they're probably going to burn it down again. But I tell you the worst thing about movies, this is not in the book, but it's something that's been weighing on my mind a lot, because I go to a lot of movies. I love popcorn. Basically, I go to the movie for the popcorn. That's what goes to get, but you ever go there and why is it in all movies the kids selling the popcorn have green hair and 4 tattoos and 9 earrings, and they say, I like some popcorn, would you like some butter on that?
Yeah.
Well, if you say yeah, you notice next time, charge you another $1.25 for that butter on your popcorn.
I didn't know that. I never get butter.
Well, watch them. They go over there, they got a big thing, a big bucket of popcorn, okay? It's already in there. So then on the top, they put a little butter. Well, after you've eaten the first 9 kernels, there ain't any more butter, because what they should do is put a little popcorn in, butter on that, a little more, a little more. It's one of the great rip-offs of all time.
The buttering of the popcorn.
The buttering of the popcorn. Very concerned about that.
Does your humor, when you write and when you talk, does humor come naturally to you, even if you're talking about a very serious subject? Can you help it that you're going to slip into little funny references to things?
It, of course, it depends on my mood and anything else, but I think that I can, and it's one of the things that bothers me. To me, I think there are very few things that you can't, everything should have a humorous angle to it. I mean, you know, I had heart surgery and wrote a funny book about it. And that wasn't a lot of fun, but, you know, managed to find humor in it. And it bothers me, again, it's the same kind of thing that we've, let me give you an example of something that didn't get in the newspaper. Maynard Jackson is the mayor of Atlanta. I'm not saying Maynard is fat, but when he steps on a cigarette, that sucker is out. So they had a big story in the paper that is costing $500,000 for Maynard's security each year. And I said, now that probably sounds like a lot of money, but if you compute this thing by the pound, it ain't very much. Well, I couldn't get that in the paper because I was making fun of fat people. I've written 50 columns about how skinny I am, you know. But it's just that, you know, we cut off, you can't make fun of this, you can't say anything about feminism. You know, if you just dare say anything about that, 5 ladies will come with hat pins the next week and try to gouge your eyes out, you know. And so we keep limiting the things that you can have fun with. We've got, why do we need to lighten up in this country? You know, just relax a little bit and hey.
Did you see Seinfeld this past week? You ever watch that show?
Yeah, but I didn't see it this week.
You like that show?
Yeah, plenty of it.
They did a story about the bubble boy, one of these kids that has to stay in an isolated bubble because he has an some kind of immune disease. And you would expect it to be a very sad, touching story, and the kid to be, you know, very meek. Instead, this kid is yelling obscenities at his parents, and they made fun with a very serious situation. And I thought it was a brilliant way to approach this, and have fun with something that's real in our world and society.
I don't think that there's a difference between poking fun at somebody because they happen to be poor or they have some kind of physical disability. That's what I'm talking about. But issues, you know, the feminine issue, the homosexual issue, all the issues that we have today, and God knows there are hundreds and thousands of them. I mean, there's every day there's a new one. There's a new cause celebre, and we have more activists in this country than we. Now, you can't hold down a full-time job like working at a Waffle House or anything and be an activist because you ain't got time. If you're an activist, it means you got a lot of time on your hands. That's why you see very few steelworker activists or waitress, Waffle House waitresses. By the way, the Waffle House, I said this the other day, for all my life, the Waffle House has been the most consistent thing in my life. The thing about the Waffle House, I think they got the same waitresses, and wherever I go, they're all there just moving around. The food's always the same. The food's always the same, and it's good, and I enjoy it. And I actually I wrote a column about it, and I made the cover of the Waffle House magazine.
Did you?
Yes.
And it's amazing floor show. If you sit in one of those booths where you can watch them, you watch this short order cook. And it's a wonder. It's a study of wonder that this guy can get all these orders, get these.
Never writes anything down.
Never writes.
Never stops. So tell me that again. He's, you know, it's man. It's like a symphony.
12 things cook
going at one time
and gets them all right on the money.
That's one.
Louis Grizzard is our guest. Another break. We'll be back.
If you'd like to join the Miller & Company phone club, send us a one-page letter with your name, address, and
since 1962. Let's go to Schenectady, New York. Bill, you're on the air with Louis Grizzard.
Thank you, Dan. Louis, I am a writer myself. I write mostly journalism and historical fiction, and I also teach writing, and I appreciate how difficult it is what you do successfully. I don't think people understand how hard it is to write humor. In fact, I use some of your pieces in the writing courses I teach. My question about your book, and I myself am 46, and I agree with everything in the book. I have the same problems. But my question is about, I think it's also a somewhat serious book underneath a lot of the humor. And I'm wondering how you have thought about answering critics who might say that this type of humor is not really appropriate for some of the issues that you address. Like, for example, in Chapter 5, which is appropriately called "This Chapter is Going to Get Me in a Lot of Trouble." Have you thought about how you would answer critics who, and I think you were talking about this just a few moments ago, who say, well, maybe there are some things that are just too sensitive to even write humorously about?
Okay, thanks for your question, Bill.
Well, my answer to that is what I said, that what is too sensitive that you can't have fun with, you know? I mean, that's the problem. The list is getting greater and greater and greater and greater. Every day there's something new that you can't, you know, you might offend somebody, so you can't write it. And my job as a newspaper columnist, I think, is to elicit a reaction. Now, I don't care if you get mad, you get angry, you want to kill me, or you cry, or you laugh, or whatever. I got to elicit a reaction, because if I don't elicit reactions, that means there's nobody reading it, and that's going to mean I'm going to be working in a liquor store in 2 weeks. So I think that the one thing I've tried to be is I don't want to beat around the bush. I want you to know exactly what I mean here. Now, you may not agree with me, and that's fine. I mean, that's actually, I don't expect everybody. A lot of stuff I write I don't agree with, but you got to do for a week, 15 years. I mean, there's some days, you know, I can talk it round, I can talk it flat, but it just bothers me that we seem to have a little more every year goes away and erodes, that you can't talk about this, you can't talk about that, and where's this going to end?
No, well, I agree. Humor is a great disarmer of the. It really is. If you don't mention something, it seems to fester and get worse and worse.
You've got to be able to laugh, and you got to be able to laugh yourself. I promise you that over the years, I've been writing this column 15 years, that most of the barbs I've thrown out, the person I've made the most fun of is me. I made fun of the fact that I have 4 eyes, I'm skinny, you know, I can't do anything with machinery. I have no idea. I can't operate showers in hotels anymore. Showers used to be a little knob on the H and a little C. Now you go on, it's one knob, you know where to pull it or push it or whatever.
That big circular thing.
Yeah, you know what to do with it. So, you know, I make fun of my own self.
Cleveland, Tennessee, Luann, you're on the air with Louis Grizzard.
Well, hello there.
Hi.
I was want to ask a question. Do you write about the South because that's where you're from and that's what you know? Or is there just something inherently funny about Southerners in the South? Like, is it the humidity or something in the water that makes it so colorful?
I don't know. I write about the South because I am Southern, and that's where I live. I mean, if I lived in Peoria, Illinois, I guess I'd write a lot about Peoria. But one of the interesting things about, I'm always introduced as Southern humorist Louis Grizzard or Southern columnist Louis Grizzard. But I never hear anybody from Seattle introduced as a Northwest Pacific American. They never talk about Mike Royko being a Midwestern columnist. It's only in the South, and it's the last place in this country that there is a sense of place. But I think that one thing is Southerners, we have a more understanding of the language, more appreciation of the language, and I think one of the things that happened was the front porch. You know, when they don't do it anymore, but you used to have the front porch. There was no television, no air conditioning. You had to sit on the front porch to cool off, and people told stories. But I think Southerners, to me, have the best sense of humor. They enjoy the little phrase, little touch phrase or something like that. I mean, my mail will be, I really like this phrase or something, and Yankees basically want to pull a knife on you. That's kind of what they want to do.
I don't know that it's quite that black and white, but I know where you're going with that.
It's like, I read in the newspaper this year when the primaries came south, the New York Times was writing about the Bubba vote, okay? Now, why didn't, when they had the New Jersey primary, why wasn't that called the loud-talking, obnoxious Yankee vote, Only in the South do they take this thing. Let me tell you something else. There's nothing wrong with anybody named Bubba. Right. See, most Bubbas came from the fact that they had little sisters who could not pronounce the word brother, so it came out Bubba. I did a column on a man one time, worked for IBM in Atlanta, and his name was Bubba. And his boss, whose name was Marvin, told him he'd have to change his name because it wasn't a good image to be named Bubba in the IBM business. And let me tell you something, I'd a lot rather deal with a man named Bubba than I would Marvin or Raul. I'm not going to trust a man named Bubba.
My dad, my dad's sisters called him Bubba. Nobody else in the family does, but they do, in fact, call him Bubba.
Absolutely.
Louis Grizzard is our guest. We're going to take another break. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
I remember when I was a kid driving through Atlanta.
They started working on those highways. And I drove down there a month ago. This has been a lot of decades, and they're still working on it.
I know what happened, and nobody will admit this, the city government, but the original plans for the highway construction in Atlanta were lost.
Is that what it was?
And nobody will admit it. So what happens is every morning, 6,000 guys in hard hats and buckets of cement go out and just start building stuff, Well, we've got a line in Atlanta, what's yellow and sleeps six, a Department of Transportation truck. But, no, it'll never be finished.
I've never seen anything like it.
They change X's. They have a guy that stands there, and when you go on somewhere, and he gets the extra sign, he goes and moves it. So when you drive back, it changes every 30 minutes. You have no idea. I wound up in Chattanooga trying to get to the south side of Atlanta a couple of times.
If you've never driven through Atlanta, you don't know what you've missed. They continue to work on them. Let's go to Franklin, Tennessee. Brenda, you're on the air with Louis Grizzard.
Hi, I just love the titles of your book. I had rather walk through a bookstore and just read titles as to do anything on my lunch hour, but where do you come up with things like Elvis is dead and I don't feel so good myself?
Well, I'll tell you where I came up with that. I had a friend in high school named Ronnie Jenkins, and his father was with the post office. And his father retired, and what he did, he went in the backyard and he got him a folding chair. And he sat there and he drank bourbon and Coca-Cola the rest of the day. And he did this until he died. He lived a happy life. And every few minutes, he would say, all great men are dying, and I don't feel so good myself. And that is a Mark Twain line. But I remember him saying that, and that's where that came from. Elvis is dead, and I don't feel so good myself.
I was looking through some of your titles earlier. If I ever get back to Georgia, I'm going to nail my feet to the ground.
That's an old country music song.
Is it? Don't bend over in the garden, Granny. You know them taters got eyes.
Well, that was a clean book about sex. But I remember stuff like this. Like I had one shoot little boys that riding Shetland ponies. This same guy, Ronnie Jenkins, and I. There was a beer joint in my hometown named Lucille's, and Lucille didn't care if you were 11 years old. If you get a quarter up on it, she'd give you a cold Pabst Blue Ribbon. And Ronnie and I was sitting there drinking Pabst Blue Ribbons, listening to Hank Lachlan on the jukebox one day, and Ronnie just simply, some moment just looked up and said, "Shoot low, boys, they're riding Shetland ponies." And I said, "I got no idea what it means or where you're coming from, but One of these days I'm going to write a book, and I'm entitled to that.
If love were oil, I'd be about a quart low.
Isn't that a sad? That's about true for me.
That's sad. That's sad. What do you think about these Perot, Bush, Clinton debates that are going to be starting this weekend?
I can't wait. I'm really excited. I think that President Bush will cut him up pretty good. I mean, here is a man who has the last 12 years was involved in things like ending communism in this country and making sure that when we go to bed at night there are no missiles aimed at us anymore. You know, this is against a guy who's actually younger than I am. Now, I have no business being president because I ain't nearly mature enough to do it, and he's younger than I am. And I just don't think that there's the comparison between the two guys. I mean, I wouldn't sleep very good. I know guys like Bill Clinton. I went to college with these kind of guys. You know, slick. I mean, I guarantee they'll sell you a condo in a heartbeat.
But now this could also be part of that aging process we're talking about. Because this would be the first time, if Clinton and Gore win, it would be the first time the president and vice president are younger than me. And that causes me some.
Well, that's something else. I spoke recently on the USS Yorktown in Charleston, and on the hangar deck they have George Bush's airplane, the actual airplane that he shot. I mean, not the actual thing, but like the plane, same color and everything. Got his name on it, and then the two guys behind him both died. He was the youngest pilot in the Navy, and then you're going to replace him with a guy that did some of the things that Clinton did. I mean, you know, the thing that got me was going to a foreign country and demonstrating against your own country in London. That's insane. You know, and that's just, to me, is not patriotic. And
I don't agree with you on that one, but we got to go to a break. Louis Grizzard's our guest. One more break. We'll be right back. Grizzard, that's an artist's rendering of our guest. So, one more thought on this debate thing now. Do you think Perot should be in the debate?
I think that's fine. The only thing that worries me about Perot is there are people who have accused me after I wrote some books and everything that I had always pronounced my name Grizzard, and only after I'd done that I'd changed it to be Grizzard. And like I say, it's always been Grizzard. It's a beautiful French name, and in French it means wild stallion. Grizzard means sissy welfare recipient. But do you think there was ever a time in H. Ross Perot's life before he became a billionaire that he pronounced his name Perot?
I don't think so.
You've got to think about that, because I don't believe we want a President Perot. I mean, there's a lot of lines I could use here of this being family television only.
But we need honesty in names and government
names,
in this country. I don't think we have time for this story, but T. Graham Brown, I ran into him on the steps coming into here.
An old University of Georgia Bulldog, and know him well, love his work.
He said, tell you that Bubber in Athens, Georgia, that runs a store, is looking for some money that you apparently owe him.
Listen, Bubber kept, from 1958 to 1968, Bubber was a saving grace to every University of Georgia college student.
There's the book from Louis Grizzard, I Haven't Understood Anything Since 1962, and Other Naked Truths. Thank you, Louis.
Enjoyed it.
Appreciate doing this.
Okay, thank you,
Our guest, Louis Grizzard. We'll see you back here on Monday. Our guests will be Lionel Cartwright and the Forrester Sisters. So,
since 1962. And Other Naked Truths. This is the cover. Would you please welcome Louis Grizzard?
Thank you. Thank you very much. The key word on the book is naked truths. That's spelled N-E-K-K-I-D. There's a difference between naked and naked. If you're from down south, you'll understand that naked means you don't have your clothes on. Naked means you don't have any clothes on and you're up to something. It's a whole different thing. But it's great to be on with Confederate Railroad, because I'm also from Atlanta, Georgia. Anybody else here from Atlanta tonight? Yeah. Well, you know, I can tell you now, Atlanta's a great city. It's really going to be nice when we finish it. I promise you that. But we got a tough start, because in 1864, the well-known pyromaniac William Sherman burned the place down. A lot of people don't realize that when he was leaving Atlanta, he was going out Interstate 20, and they go out past Stone Mountain, hear this incredible ruckus from the top of the mountain. He looks up, and there stands one lone Confederate soldier up there with a saber drawn. And he thinks, I got CBS News, I got the New York Times with me, I better get him off this bad public relations. He sent the toughest man in the outfit up to get that soldier off Stone Mountain. He never lived to tell his story. Sent 50 Union soldiers up there, they all died. Finally, he sent 100 Yankee soldiers top of Stone Mountain to get that one lone Confederate off. Only one came down to tell the story, and he was bleeding. He said, General Sherman said, son, what's going on up there? He said, it's a trick, General Sherman. There's two of them. Well, things are going great in Atlanta right now. Of course, we know the Atlanta Braves are out playing the Pittsburgh Pirates, yeah. A lot of people don't realize, you know, that we invented the tomahawk chop last year. I was the guy that invented the tomahawk chop. I was out there early in the season. The guy said, "Which way's the restroom?" I said, "It's right over there." And it just caught on. What can I tell you? But then the playoffs and the World Series came along. And I looked down in Ted Turner's box, and there's Jane Fonda, one of my favorite people, and she's doing a double chop. And I got a little suspicious. What's the difference between a single chop and a double chop? So I asked an Indian friend of mine, his name is Dances with Fat Girls, what's the difference between a single chop and a double chop? He said, very simple. A single chop means hit a home run. A double chop, like Jane Fonda was doing, means ground weakly to the shortstop. Aha, once a traitor, always a traitor. Since we're talking about Atlanta, I got to talk a little bit about the University of Georgia. I'm a graduate of the University of Georgia, and we have a lot of rivals, but Georgia Tech is our greatest rival. And Georgia Tech, some stories about them. They signed a basketball player recently, and it took him 27 times to make 700 on his SAT, and they give you 400 to find the place where they're giving the test. And the coach was getting some information from the young man. He said, "Son, exactly how tall are you?" And the boy started down here, and he measured off, and he measured off. He said, 6'11". He said, "How old are you?" Started with his fingers, used his toes, 18. So, "What's your first name?" And he went, "Marvin." The coach said, "I understood the fingers and toes and all that stuff. What was that when I asked you what your name was?" He said, "Well, Coach, sometime I forget. I have to do this to remember. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you." Another one of Georgia's great rivals we play him in the end of the season is Auburn. And an Auburn man reads in the newspaper, he sees an ad. Somebody's here. Where I go. But anyway, Auburn guy reads an ad in the paper, says vacation cruise $99. So this sounds great. He goes down to a travel agency. "I'd like to have the vacation cruise, $99. He pays the guy. Guy comes out behind the counter with a baseball bat, knocks him in the head, knocks him out, wraps him up a bunch of blankets and sheets, ties him up with a rope, opens the back door, and throws him out in the river, and there he goes on his $99 vacation cruise. About 15 minutes later, Georgia Tech man walks in and says, "I'm here at the vacation cruise." Same thing, takes his money, knocks him out, wraps him up, throws him in the river. About 15 minutes later, the Tech guy and the Auburn guy are floating down the river together. The Auburn guy turned to the Tech guy and says, "Excuse me, but do you think you're going to serve us any food on this cruise?" The Tech guy said, "It didn't last year." Thank you. Well, I absolutely despise motivational speakers, and I haven't tried to motivate anybody here tonight. If I did motivate anybody, I sincerely apologize for it. But let me just leave you one thought. I do this around the country, and I see we've got a time when Americans are really into things, and people are working hard, and people will sometimes work too hard, you know, and they try to make too much money, try to impress too many of their friends, try to climb too high on the corporate ladder of success. Just remember this, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't matter how much money you make. It doesn't matter how many friends you impress. It doesn't matter how high you climb on the corporate ladder of success. The size of your funeral is still going to be determined by the weather. Thank you very much. I enjoy it.
That's funny. Louis, welcome back to the show.
How are you?
I know you've been in Nashville on a sort of a book blitz, I suppose.
Yes. I'm trying to sell the book again. It's my 16th book. And,
well, I've got a note here that says it's either your 17th or your 18th.
Maybe it is. I've lost count. But once again, I'm not trying to sell this book for myself. It's went by to see my little brother Joey at the hospital in Atlanta today, and he asked me where I was going. I told him I was going to be on this show, and he said, "Do you think as a result of your performance there on the Nashville Network, some of those wonderful people might go out and buy some of your books that I may have the operation and be able to run and jump and play like the other little boys?" So
I see.
One thing interesting this year, the Surgeon General just came out with this. A lot of people don't realize this, but the Surgeon General has found that one of the ways disease is transferred in this country is people buy a book and they read it, then they give it to their uncle gives it to their brother, and all those germs get away. So the Surgeon General has asked for the public, for the good health, everybody just buy their own book. Don't give it to anybody else.
You're a great book salesman.
Oh, yeah.
I was talking to T. Graham Brown about you this morning. Also went to the University of Georgia.
Certainly did.
And he said when he got there, you were legend. He said he raised more hell than anybody that ever been through the University of Georgia.
Well, I had a lot of help. There was a place in Athens called Bubber's. Actually, it wasn't Bubber's. It was just Bubber was the name of it. And Bubber would cash checks, and Bubber would sell you a case of cold Paso Ribbon beer. He didn't care how old you were. If you had $3 and get it up that counter, you got the cold beer. And Bubber had a little speech problem, and what happened to him, he went out to sell some scrap metal one day to a guy, a scrap metal dealer in Athens, and the scrap metal dealer had the same problem speaking he did, and each one of them thought the other was making fun of them, and they got in a hell of a fight.
Tell me about this book.
Well, I haven't understood anything since 1962. In 1962, the world made sense to me. It really did. I was 16 years old. I just lettered in basketball in high school. I had a lovely blonde girlfriend. My mother used to hand-cut French fries. Sandy Koufax was winning baseball games. Arnold Palmer was winning golf tournaments. And then in 1963, they shot the president. And in 1964, the Beatles came along. And I saw them. The first time I saw the Beatles, I knew it was going to be trouble. Here are four rather pale-looking English guys singing songs they didn't understand. And the world has never been the same since. That brought other pale-looking English guys over singing. And then the Vietnam War broke out. And in the book, I explain how the Beatles are probably the cause of that whole thing. One of the things that irritated me the most, when John Lennon died, and I have nothing against John Lennon, I really don't, but when he died, they went on for 4 days about it. John Lennon once posed naked on an album cover with his wife. When Marty Robbins died, they had about 4 paragraphs like this in my newspaper, and I guarantee you, Marty never posed naked on the album cover. And that's the difference between country music and other kind of music.
Absolutely. Hear, hear.
Gene, you'd never posed naked, have you?
No.
I didn't think so.
No. There's another verse behind that.
There's a wonderful comment here about Miss Kitty on Gunsmoke.
Yes, Miss Kitty was, well, go you read it. Go ahead.
Miss Kitty was a good business person, but she wasn't pushy. And she could accept a compliment from a man without charging him with sexual harassment.
Absolutely. In 1962, those kind of things happened, but the world has changed dramatically, and I don't understand any of it. The music really is incredible. I don't know if you've ever watched MTV. What I do sometimes, I love Mexican food, and I'll go and eat too much and be sick to my stomach and kind of need to regurgitate, and I will go watch MTV for 15 minutes. And out it comes. Man. What is this stuff? I really like the name. I mean, I like country group's name. Confederate Road, that's great. But I heard a rock and roll group the other night called Stark Naked and the Car Thieves. Where do they get these names for these groups?
What is the harmonica player's name that was with Pat and Barbara when you were in Spartanburg?
Well, I'll tell you, that's been a long time, and I don't remember. But this group, Pat and Barbara, used to open for me in my comedy shows, and they had one of the great harmonica players of all time, but I cannot remember his name. He was great.
That's a question from the audience tonight,
yeah.
from Malden Pearson of Pacolet, South Carolina. Pacolet? Okay, we need to take a break, my friends. Coming up, the newest record by Gene Watson right after this.